I was on this solo trip to Hawaii, thinking I'd learn how to surf. You know, ticking off the typical touristy stuff. Found this surf instructor, seemed like a chill guy, and he offered to teach me the ropes. Sounded great at first, but things took a creepy turn real quick. He suggested we head to the secluded cove, away from the crowded surf spots. I was naive, thought maybe it was a secret spot or something. We trekked through the sand, and I started feeling a bit uneasy. The cove was beautiful, sure, but it was too isolated, and the waves looked pretty intense. The instructor seemed insistent, though, like it was the perfect spot for a lesson. Red flags started popping up, but I brushed them off, thinking maybe he knew something I didn't. He was the pro, right? As we got into the water, the vibe got weirder. He kept getting too close, touching my arm unnecessarily, making my skin crawl. I tried to focus on the waves, but his presence was unsettling. It was like he had this hidden agenda that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The lesson started, and instead of the usual tips, he was getting too handsy with the whole teaching thing. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. He insisted we go deeper into the cove, away from prying eyes. The currents were strong, and panic started setting in. I voiced my concerns, but he brushed them off, saying it was part of the learning process. Yeah, right. The waves were getting rougher, and I felt this sinking feeling in my gut. Was this guy trying to put me in a vulnerable position? It sure felt like it. The cove felt like a trap. The waves roared around us, and his friendly demeanor turned into something more sinister. I started to regret my decision to go solo on this adventure. Panic set in, and I realized I needed to get out of there. I tried to play it cool, like I was just catching my breath, and then I made a run for it. The cove suddenly felt like a maze, the waves crashing louder, the isolation closing in. He called after me, but I didn't look back. I just kept running, the sand shifting beneath my feet. I found my way back to the more crowded area, gasping for breath. The instructor didn't follow, but the fear lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that I narrowly escaped something really bad. The sun was shining, the waves were crashing, but my paradise had turned into a nightmare. I reported the incident, but it was my word against his. The authorities said they'd look into it, but I had this sinking feeling nothing would come of it. I left that cove with a sense of dread, a lesson learned the hard way. Surfing was supposed to be this fun, carefree experience. Instead, it became a chilling encounter with someone who took advantage of my trust. I signed up for this beach cleanup thing in Santa Monica. You know, trying to do my part for the environment. Figured it'd be a chill day picking up trash, helping out. Man, was I wrong. It started like any other cleanup, the sun beating down, waves crashing. I had my gloves on, ready to tackle the mess. Picked up the usual stuff at first, plastic bottles, cigarette butts, the usual suspects. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then, things got weird. I stumbled upon this box, washed up like it got tossed around in the ocean for ages. It was sealed tight, no markings, just this ominous-looking thing. I should have left it alone, but curiosity got the better of me. I cracked it open, and inside, there were these weird symbols, papers, and photos. Looked like some secret society stuff, and that's when things took a nosedive. I noticed someone watching me, from a distance. A guy in a suit, blending into the crowd but sticking out like a sore thumb. I tried to act cool, kept cleaning, but he was always there, lurking. I went back to the box, thinking maybe I could get more info. Stupid move. Suddenly, I had company, a couple of burly dudes, looking like they stepped out of a detective movie. They weren't here for the beach view, that's for sure. I pretended not to notice them, but the tension was thick. I'm just here to clean up the beach, right? What's with these shady characters? They started talking in hushed tones, eyes locked on me. I thought, okay, this isn't just a cleanup anymore. I tried to slip away, act like I didn't know anything, but they followed. It was like I'd stumbled into some secret operation. I considered calling the cops, but then I thought, what if they're in on it too? As I walked away, I noticed the guy in the suit was on his phone, probably calling in reinforcements. My heart raced. This was Santa Monica, not some spy movie backdrop. I wasn't equipped for this. I made my way to a more crowded area, thinking I could blend in, but they kept tailing me. Every turn, every glance over my shoulder, they were there. My paranoia was off the charts. Who were these people, and what did they want with me? I ditched my gloves, the ones with my fingerprints all over them, hoping it'd throw them off. But they were relentless. I finally made a break for it, sprinted through the crowds, heart pounding in my chest. Found a cafe, ducked inside, and tried to catch my breath. But they were still out there, pacing around like hungry sharks. I couldn't shake the feeling that I stumbled onto something big, something dangerous. I hightailed it out of there, ditched the box, and kept my head low. I don't know what was in those papers, but it wasn't worth risking my neck. I was in Miami, you know, a solo vacation. Figured I'd treat myself to some sun, sand, and whatever else the city had to offer. Strolled along the beach, the waves crashing, and the sun kissing my skin. Just your typical Miami day, until this guy, a photographer, approached me. He had this friendly vibe, charisma oozing from every pore. Said he was working on some portfolio or whatever and thought I'd be the perfect model. Flattering, right? I mean, who doesn't want a free photo shoot in Miami? We set a time, late afternoon, when the golden hour hits. Seemed legit, nothing fishy. He had a camera, tripod, the whole deal. We started snapping pics, him directing me to pose this way and that. Everything was cool, the sun casting this warm glow, waves in the background. Instagram worthy, I thought. Then, slowly, things got weird. He started suggesting, you know, more risque poses. I'm no prude, but it felt off. I hesitated, but he was persistent, like he had this hidden agenda. That friendly demeanor turned into something sinister. I tried to steer the shoot back to normal, casual poses, but he wasn't having it. Kept pushing boundaries, getting uncomfortably close. I started feeling uneasy, like I'd stumbled into some shady operation. As the sun dipped lower, so did my comfort level. He suggested we move to a more secluded spot for better lighting. Alarm bells were ringing, but I brushed them off. Stupid move. We walked further down the beach, away from the crowds. That's when he dropped the act. His camera was still dangling from his neck, but now he was too close, hands fumbling. My gut screamed danger. I knew I had to bail, but I didn't want to escalate things. You know, stay cool, find a way out without making a scene. He hinted at this private shoot idea, and I'm thinking, no way, dude. Panic started bubbling up. My mind raced through escape plans. I pretended to get a call, whipped out my phone, and walked away, acting like it was an emergency. Smooth, right? I headed back toward the busy part of the beach, scanning for any sign of him following. Heart pounding, palms sweaty, I realized I'd narrowly dodged something seriously messed up. I saw him lingering in the distance, watching. My solo Miami trip took a dark turn, from picturesque photo shoot to this creepy encounter. I shuddered at the thought of what might have happened if I hadn't trusted my instincts and made a quick escape. So, there we were, me and my buddies, camping on the secluded beach in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. We thought it was going to be the ultimate bro getaway, just us, the waves, and a few cold ones. We picked this spot because it was like our own private paradise. Miles away from civilization, no tourists in sight. Just the sound of the ocean and the crackle of our campfire. Little did we know, paradise had a sinister side. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the beach transformed. Shadows grew longer, and the waves seemed louder, almost drowning out the distant sound of footsteps. We joked about it, like, who else would be crazy enough to camp out here? Turns out, we were about to find out. It started with distant whispers, like the wind carrying secrets. We brushed it off, thinking it was our imagination playing tricks. But then, figures emerged from the darkness. Menacing silhouettes, their faces hidden in the night. My heart raced as they got closer. We tried to play it cool, just sitting around the fire, pretending we didn't notice. But these guys, they weren't here for a friendly chat. They encircled us, their eyes gleaming in the firelight. No words exchanged, just this eerie silence. One of them stepped forward, and I could see the glint of something metallic in his hand. My mind raced through possibilities. Was it a knife? A weapon? My buddies and I exchanged nervous glances, but none of us dared to break the silence. Then it hit us. They weren't here to swap ghost stories or share marshmallows. These guys meant business, and we were on their turf. Panic set in as we realized we were outnumbered, outgunned, and isolated. No one around to hear us scream. The leader, or at least the guy I assumed was in charge, gave this cold, humorless smile. They wanted our stuff, our gear, our wallets. The usual targets. But it wasn't just about the valuables, it was about power, control. We were at their mercy. We handed over what we had, hoping that'd be the end of it. But they lingered, like vultures eyeing fresh prey. We sat there, powerless, watching our perfect beach retreat turn into a nightmare. Then, as abruptly as they appeared, they melted back into the shadows, leaving us shaken and vulnerable. We didn't waste a second. Packed up what was left and got the hell out of there. We thought it would be a simple day of fun in the sun, A break from reality, just me and my girl, renting jet skis in the Bahamas. What could go wrong in paradise? We picked up those flashy jet skis, all revved up and ready for some adrenaline. The turquoise water stretched before us, inviting and sparkling. The sun was scorching, and the beachgoers seemed to be having a blast. Little did we know, our day was about to take a drastic turn. We jetted off, the wind whipping through our hair. It felt like freedom, like living in a postcard. We cruised along, the water beneath us clear as crystal. But as we ventured farther from the crowded shores, the atmosphere shifted. In the distance, we spotted a group of boats huddled together, hidden in a cove. We figured it was just some locals having a private party. No harm in exploring, right? That's where we went wrong. As we approached, the jovial sounds of the beach faded, replaced by something more ominous. Men in shady attire darted between the boats, exchanging packages, furtive glances, you name it. Suddenly, our carefree adventure became a dance on the edge of danger. We tried to steer clear, but the cove's entrance was narrow, and before we knew it, we were in the middle of something we shouldn't have been involved in. The atmosphere turned tense, electric with an unspoken threat. One of the guys noticed us, and his eyes locked onto ours like a predator spotting prey. My girl squeezed my hand, fear evident in her eyes. We were intruders in their secret world. As we tried to turn back, the ringleader approached, blocking our escape. He had this cold, piercing gaze that made my stomach churn. We were stuck, with nowhere to go but face the unknown. He didn't say much, just warned us to keep our mouths shut about what we stumbled upon. The implication was clear: cross us, and there'd be consequences. The tropical paradise we envisioned morphed into a hostile territory, and we were powerless against the underbelly of the island. We nodded in agreement, our jet skis now surrounded by these enigmatic figures. They let us go, but the ominous air lingered. We jetted back to the bustling beach, trying to shake off the encounter, but it clung to us like a stain. Our carefree day turned into a lesson about the hidden undercurrents beneath the surface of paradise. I thought it'd be a typical day of fishing, a chance to unwind on a charter off the coast of Key West, Florida. The sun was blazing, seagulls squawking overhead, and the boat bobbed on the gentle waves. Little did I know, things were about to get real dark, real fast. The crew seemed like a friendly bunch, cracking jokes and sharing fish tales. They had that easygoing vibe, and I was excited for a laid-back day at sea. But as we ventured farther from the shore, the atmosphere shifted, like a storm cloud creeping in. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The crew's laughter became hushed whispers, and their eyes darted around nervously. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid, but my gut told me otherwise. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to explore the boat, see what was going on below deck. The door creaked open, revealing a scene straight out of a crime drama. Stacks of packages, not fish, lined the hold. The stench of something illicit hung in the air. I stumbled upon a secret, and it wasn't just about fishing. These guys were up to something dangerous, something beyond the tranquil facade of the ocean. My heart raced as I realized I was knee-deep in something I shouldn't have uncovered. As I tiptoed back up, the jovial banter resumed. They were playing their part well, concealing the sinister reality beneath the surface. I tried to act casual, joining in the laughter, but the weight of the secret I stumbled upon pressed on me. The boat bobbed along, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in over my head. What had I stumbled upon? I envisioned headlines about drug busts, illegal shipments, or worse. Panic set in as I grappled with the reality that I was unwittingly part of something dangerous. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the water. The crew's smiles turned into grimaces, and their eyes bore into me, as if they knew I had glimpsed their secret. I was just another unwitting passenger on a boat with a double life. As we anchored back at the dock, I felt a sense of relief mixed with dread. I was back on solid ground, but the knowledge of the crew's dark dealings had really shook me up. We were just a bunch of college kids looking to have a good time. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was our chosen playground, and we had heard whispers about this legendary beach party. Little did we know, our night would descend into a chaotic nightmare. The beach was alive with music, laughter, and the rhythmic crash of waves. We were stoked, ready to immerse ourselves in the festivities. But as we approached the epicenter of the party, the vibe shifted. It wasn't the carefree atmosphere we expected. It was tense, charged with an invisible electricity. Groups of people eyed each other warily, and an undercurrent of hostility simmered beneath the surface. Unbeknownst to us, rival factions had staked their claim to this sandy turf, turning it into a battleground for reasons unknown. We should have sensed trouble when we saw the territorial glares, but youthful exuberance blinded us. The first sign of trouble came when a heated exchange erupted between two groups. Words turned into shoves, and shoves escalated into punches. The party vibe evaporated, replaced by a palpable fear. Our group huddled together, trying to navigate through the chaos. But the fighting intensified, and we found ourselves trapped in a space that had turned into a war zone. The beach, once a symbol of carefree joy, became a battleground for rivalries that were beyond our understanding. As we tried to retreat, it became apparent that this wasn't a skirmish that would fizzle out. It was a full-blown clash, and we were caught in the crossfire. The dim moonlight cast eerie shadows as chaos unfolded around us. It was like a nightmare playing out in the real world. Panicked shouts, crashing bottles, and the occasional scream formed a dissonant symphony of terror. The beach, which had been a canvas for carefree memories, became a theater of conflict. We were face to face with the raw, unfiltered hostility of human nature. We tried to find an exit, a way out of this madness, but the options dwindled as the night wore on. The rival groups were locked in a struggle for dominance, and we were unintended spectators, hostages to the madness that unfolded. Fear gnawed at us, amplifying every sound, every movement. The once enticing ocean breeze now carried the stench of fear and desperation. It was survival instinct kicking in, an adrenaline-fueled race against the encroaching darkness. We witnessed acts of aggression that chilled us to the bone. It wasn't just a brawl anymore, it was a power play between groups fueled by motives we couldn't fathom. Our group became a silent witness to the darker shades of human nature. Eventually, as dawn broke, the clashes subsided. The rival factions dispersed, leaving a scene of wreckage behind. We emerged from our hiding spot, battered and traumatized, our Myrtle Beach escapade forever tainted by the brutal reality that unfolded. It started as a typical family vacation. The sun beat down on the sandy beaches of Cancun, and we decided to enter a seemingly harmless sandcastle competition. Little did we know, it would turn into a nightmare beyond our wildest imagination. The morning sun was scorching as we set up our spot for the competition. Buckets, shovels, and dreams of winning the coveted title fueled our excitement. We weren't professional sculptors, just a family looking for some fun under the Mexican sun. As we molded and shaped our masterpiece, we noticed another group nearby. They seemed overly competitive, not in the friendly spirit of the competition, but in a sinister, calculated way. Their eyes bore into us, and a chill ran down my spine. It started innocently enough. A toppled tower here, a misplaced moat there. We dismissed it as the typical rivalry of any contest. But as we repaired our castle, things escalated. Someone deliberately kicked down our creation, leaving us stunned and bewildered. Frustration and confusion gripped our family. It wasn't about the competition anymore. It was about survival in a seemingly harmless event turned hostile. The rival group, fueled by some hidden agenda, targeted us with a malicious intensity. We exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that we were in over our heads. The sun, once a source of warmth, now felt like an oppressive spotlight, exposing us to a threat we couldn't comprehend. The competition site became a battleground, not for sandcastles but for dominance. Whispers circulated among the other contestants. The rival group was known for ruthless tactics, sabotaging opponents to ensure their victory. We were the unsuspecting victims, dragged into a situation we never signed up for. The beach, adorned with vibrant umbrellas and playful laughter, transformed into a theater of tension. Our attempts to build a sandcastle became a defensive strategy against an enemy we couldn't see, only feel in the air. Fear crept in with every passing minute. The competition officials seemed oblivious to the brewing conflict. Perhaps the rival group had mastered the art of deception, blending in with the crowd while orchestrating chaos. Our pleas for intervention fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the rhythmic waves. As the day wore on, the sabotage intensified. The rival group became bolder, taunting us with smirks and menacing glares. We were trapped in a situation where our harmless family activity had transformed into a psychological warfare arena. Nightfall brought no respite. The beach, now bathed in the pale glow of moonlight, became an eerie stage for a confrontation we never anticipated. We huddled together, our half-built sandcastle a symbol of resistance against an adversary with unknown motives. It was a battle of attrition, endurance against an unseen enemy. We questioned our decision to participate, regret seeping into the once carefree atmosphere. The sand beneath our feet felt like quicksand, pulling us into a situation where escape seemed impossible. Eventually, the competition ended. We weren't winners in the traditional sense, but we survived. I was just an ordinary lifeguard, scanning the waves and keeping watch over the sun-soaked shores of Malibu. It was a job that felt like second nature, eyes on the water, ready to spring into action if someone needed help. Little did I know, that routine day would turn into a descent into the unknown. The lifeguard station, a beacon of safety, stood tall against the backdrop of the Pacific. I had spent countless hours in its shade, surveying the swells and ensuring beachgoers enjoyed the water without worry. But that day, something felt off. Call it intuition or just a hunch, but a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. As I patrolled the beach, my eyes caught a glimpse of movement beneath the lifeguard station. Normally, it was a place for equipment storage, surfboards, first aid kits, the usual stuff. But this time, there was an eerie stillness, like the air was holding its breath. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crouched down to investigate. Hidden from the casual beachgoer's view, there was a small, inconspicuous entrance leading beneath the station. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a narrow stairwell descending into darkness. My lifeguard instincts kicked in. Duty compelled me to check it out. Maybe it was just misplaced equipment or a maintenance issue. I flicked on my flashlight, its beam cutting through the shadows as I cautiously descended the stairs. The air grew colder, and a damp, musty odor enveloped me. The narrow passage opened into a dimly lit chamber. My heart pounded in my chest as I took in the scene before me. It wasn't misplaced equipment, it was something far more ominous. The chamber was filled with people, their faces shrouded in shadows. They huddled around a table covered in maps, blueprints, and what looked like surveillance photos of unsuspecting beachgoers. My breath caught as I realized I had stumbled upon something beyond my understanding. I tried to make sense of the situation. Were they criminals, planning some illicit activity right under my watchful gaze? My lifeguard training battled with the fear rising within me. I had a duty to protect, but I was out of my depth. Frozen in the shadows, I overheard snippets of conversations. They spoke in hushed tones about secret meetings, timed operations, and an unsettling level of knowledge about the beach's regular visitors. My lifeguard station, once a symbol of safety, now harbored a clandestine operation threatening the very people I was sworn to protect. My mind raced with questions. Who were these people, and what were they planning? Were they watching my every move? Fear gripped me, but my sense of duty screamed louder. I had to get out of there, find help, expose whatever dark conspiracy lurked beneath the lifeguard station. I retreated silently, step by cautious step, back up the narrow stairwell. My only focus was reaching the surface and alerting the authorities. The beach, once familiar and comforting, now felt like a maze of uncertainty. Emerging into the daylight, I sprinted to the nearest police station. Breathless and panicked, I stumbled through my words as I tried to convey the gravity of what I had discovered beneath the lifeguard station. The officers exchanged skeptical glances, but something in my eyes must have convinced them. Returning to the beach with a squad of officers, we descended into the chamber, hoping to catch the conspirators unaware. Yet, it was empty. No maps, no blueprints, just an eerie emptiness that mirrored the fear gnawing at me. The investigation that followed uncovered a network of criminals using the lifeguard station as their clandestine headquarters. They had been surveilling beachgoers, identifying targets for theft, and even planning more sinister activities. My discovery had thwarted their plans, but the unsettling reality lingered. The place meant for safety had harbored a threat. The lifeguard station, once my haven, now held a different weight. I was just a professional volleyball player, living my dream as I traveled to Rio de Janeiro for a beach tournament. The sunlit shores and the rhythmic sound of waves crashing set the stage for what I thought would be a memorable competition. Little did I know, Rio had something else in store for me, something dark and far removed from the exhilaration of the sport I loved. The tournament started like any other. The sun beat down on the golden sands, and the crowd roared with excitement. Teams clashed, and my focus was solely on the ball, the net, and the game. But as we progressed through the rounds, a shadow crept over the competitive camaraderie. It began with subtle gestures, opponents glaring a little too intensely, jaw-clenching stares that lingered a fraction longer than they should. At first, I dismissed it as the usual competitive spirit, but soon it escalated. The line between sportsmanship and something more sinister blurred. During one match, I found myself face to face with an opponent who seemed hell-bent on winning at any cost. His spikes were not just powerful, they were aggressive, aimed at my body rather than the designated court space. I chalked it up to a heated moment, the intensity of the game getting the better of him. As the tournament progressed, the atmosphere grew tense. Whispers circulated among players, rumors of under-the-table deals, mysterious injuries befalling rival teams, and a level of competitiveness that surpassed the boundaries of fair play. The once friendly competition morphed into a cutthroat battlefield. My team and I were advancing, but with every victory, the paranoia heightened. It wasn't just about skill anymore, it was survival. Each match felt like a high-stakes game, and the opponents, once fellow athletes, seemed more like adversaries in a dangerous game of power and dominance. Then came the semifinals, a crucial match that could lead us to victory or plunge us into the depths of this ominous competition. As we faced off against a team known for their aggressive tactics, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was profoundly wrong. The intensity of the game reached a fever pitch, and I found myself dodging not just balls but the malicious intent that lingered in the air. During a crucial point, a powerful spike rocketed towards me, not aimed at the court but directly at my face. Instinct kicked in, and I narrowly avoided the projectile that would have undoubtedly caused severe harm. The crowd gasped, and my teammates exchanged wary glances. It was in that moment that the realization struck: this was no ordinary tournament. The competition had transcended the love of the sport. It had become a deadly game orchestrated by those who valued victory over the safety of their opponents. As the final match loomed, I grappled with the decision to withdraw from the tournament. But a fire burned within me, a refusal to succumb to the twisted rules of this dark game. The final showdown arrived, and the tension was palpable. The court felt like a battleground, and the net a fragile barrier between me and those who saw victory as a ruthless conquest. The match unfolded with a sinister edge. The opponents, fueled by a desperate desire to win, pushed the boundaries of fair play. It wasn't just about securing a trophy, it was about proving dominance in the most dangerous game of volleyball I had ever encountered. Despite the odds, my team fought valiantly. Each point was a testament to our skill, determination, and refusal to bow to the ominous cloud that hung over the tournament. Yet, as the final whistle blew, signaling our victory, there was no celebration. The cheers of the crowd felt hollow, drowned out by the unsettling truth that victory had come at a cost. In the aftermath, the tournament organizers conducted investigations into the allegations of foul play. It turned out that some teams had resorted to sabotage, intimidation, and even physical harm to ensure their success. The beach, once a symbol of relaxation and joy, had been tainted by the dark underbelly of ruthless competition. As I left Rio de Janeiro, the golden sands held a different meaning. The sun that once bathed the beaches in warmth now cast long shadows, a reminder of the twisted competition that had unfolded. We were on vacation, my partner and I, exploring the wonders of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. The crystal clear waters beckoned, promising a breathtaking display of marine life beneath the surface. Excitement bubbled within us as we joined a snorkeling tour, eager to witness the vibrant coral reefs and the kaleidoscope of underwater colors. As we descended into the ocean, the beauty beneath was surreal. Schools of fish danced around the corals, and the sunlight filtered through the water, creating an ethereal glow. It was a paradise, and we marveled at the intricate world that unfolded beneath us. We followed the group, entranced by the mesmerizing underwater landscape. The coral formations were like intricate sculptures, and the variety of fish seemed endless. It was an experience that etched itself into memory, until it took a chilling turn. As we ventured further, we noticed a subtle shift in the atmosphere. A group of snorkelers, seemingly like us, were nearby, but something felt off. Their laughter echoed strangely, and their gazes seemed fixated on more than just a marine life. Unsettled, we exchanged wary glances. Our unease deepened when we overheard snippets of conversation from this group. Words like treasure and haul slipped through, and a sense of foreboding hung in the water. It was as if the vibrant coral paradise had transformed into a clandestine meeting ground for something darker. Trying to shake off the growing discomfort, we continued our exploration, hoping it was just our imagination. But as we swam, we noticed a mysterious group shadowing our every move. Their glares were no longer subtle. They were assessing us, sizing us up like predators eyeing their prey. Fear gripped us as we realized the danger that lurked beneath the seemingly serene surface. We tried to distance ourselves from the ominous group, but they closed in, encircling us in an underwater game of cat and mouse. Panic set in, our rhythmic breaths through the snorkels becoming strained. Suddenly, one of them made a move, swimming aggressively toward us. It was clear they weren't here for the coral's beauty or the wonders of the reef. Their intentions were malicious, and we were caught in a perilous underwater confrontation. In the confined space of the ocean depths, escape seemed impossible. We maneuvered desperately, attempting to outswim our pursuers. The once majestic coral formations became obstacles, and the vibrant marine life felt like silent witnesses to the unfolding danger. The confrontation reached a breaking point when, in a heart-stopping moment, one of the aggressors lunged at us with a sharp object. The coral paradise had transformed into a danger zone, and our idyllic snorkeling adventure had morphed into a fight for survival. In the chaos that ensued, we managed to break free, swimming toward the surface with adrenaline pumping through our veins. Gasping for breath as we breached the water, we found ourselves surrounded by the tour guide and fellow snorkelers who were oblivious to the perilous encounter beneath. We hastily recounted the harrowing experience to the tour guide, who, alarmed, radioed for assistance. It turned out the menacing group had a history of targeting unsuspecting snorkelers, robbing them of valuables and disappearing into the fastness of the Great Barrier Reef. Our dreamy exploration of the underwater world had collided with the grim reality of criminal intent beneath the waves. I needed a break, some time away from the chaos of city life. Martha's Vineyard seemed like the perfect escape, a quaint haven where I could find solace amidst the rhythm of the ocean waves. Little did I know, the tranquility of the island would be shattered by a mysterious figure haunting the shores. It all began innocently enough. Each morning, as I strolled along the beach, I noticed a lone figure combing the sands. A woman, slender and draped in a tattered shawl, her back hunched over as she scoured the shore with a meticulous intensity. Intrigued, I observed from a distance, curious about the purpose behind her relentless search. The routine repeated like clockwork. Sunrise marked the commencement of her peculiar ritual. It became my daily fascination, a mysterious dance of solitude and obsession. Her presence, however, cast an eerie shadow over the scenic beauty of the island. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I decided to approach her. The sun cast long shadows as I tentatively walked closer. The rhythmic sound of the waves accompanied my hesitant steps. When I was within speaking distance, she looked up, her eyes harboring a mixture of weariness and suspicion. With clumsy words, I attempted to engage in conversation. Her responses were cryptic, leaving me with more questions than answers. She spoke of lost treasures buried beneath the sand, remnants of a bygone era that held sentimental value beyond measure. It sounded absurd, but there was an earnestness in her voice that hinted at a deeper truth. As days passed, my fascination evolved into a compulsion to uncover the mystery shrouding the woman and her enigmatic beachcombing. The island, once a refuge, now felt like a labyrinth of secrets. I delved into the history of Martha's Vineyard, seeking clues that might unravel the woman's cryptic tale. Rumors circulated among the locals, tales of a long-lost shipwreck and the treasures it carried. Whispers of a family torn apart by tragedy and a lingering curse that tethered their spirits to the island. Skepticism warred with my curiosity, but an undeniable tension hung in the air. The woman's presence became increasingly haunting, her relentless search taking on an air of desperation. It was as if the sands held the key to a past that refused to be buried. I felt entangled in a narrative that transcended time, a tale of loss and longing that resonated with a spectral undercurrent. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange and purple across the sky, the woman beckoned me to join her on the shore. Reluctantly, I followed, the crunch of sand beneath our feet punctuating the silence. In a hushed voice, she spoke of a curse that bound her family to the island. A curse born of tragedy and a relentless pursuit of a treasure that remained forever elusive. The beachcombing, she explained, was an attempt to appease the spirits, to unearth the lost artifacts that held the key to breaking the cycle of despair. A shiver ran down my spine as the weight of her words settled in. The beach, once a serene escape, now felt like a crossroads between the living and the restless souls of the past. The woman's eyes reflected a desperation that bordered on madness, and I realized that I had unwittingly stepped into a narrative with no clear resolution. As night fell, a storm brewed on the horizon, mirroring the tempest within the woman's soul. The wind carried a mournful wail, echoing the tragedy that had befallen her family. The beach, once a sanctuary, became a theater for a spectral drama that defied reason. In the eerie glow of moonlight, the woman resumed her relentless search. The crashing waves seemed to mourn the tragic tale that unfolded on Martha's Vineyard. I stood there, a witness to a haunting saga that blurred the lines between reality and the ethereal. With a final glance, the woman disappeared into the darkness, leaving me alone on the desolate beach. We thought it would be just another fun night at the beach, a casual bonfire to cap off the summer. A group of friends, the sound of crashing waves, and the warmth of the flames dancing in the night. Little did we know, the sands of the Outer Banks held secrets darker than the night itself. As the fire crackled and the laughter echoed, we noticed shadows moving in the periphery. We dismissed it at first, attributing it to the flickering flames playing tricks on our eyes. But the unease lingered, a subtle discomfort that crept into the air. Curiosity got the better of us. We wandered beyond the circle of light, venturing into the darkness that stretched along the shoreline. And there, hidden among the dunes, we stumbled upon a gathering of figures, shrouded in secrecy. They huddled together, speaking in hushed tones, their faces obscured by the night. Fear knotted in our stomachs as we realized we unwittingly intruded on something beyond our understanding. A clandestine meeting that reeked of conspiracy. We contemplated retreating, pretending we hadn't seen, but the gravity of the situation held us in place. Their conversation, barely audible whispers carried by the wind, hinted at something ominous. We strained to catch fragments of sentences, words like betrayal, retribution, and consequences. The bonfire, once a beacon of warmth, now flickered in the face of an unseen threat. As we stood paralyzed by the shadows, one of them glanced our way. The realization that we were not alone in the darkness sent a chill down our spines. They knew we were there, intruders in their clandestine world. Panic set in, and we stumbled backward, crashing into each other in the dim light. The figures emerged from the shadows, their faces now visible in the wavering glow of the bonfire. Stern expressions bore down on us, eyes filled with a mix of anger and determination. We were caught in the crossfire of a situation we couldn't comprehend. A tense silence enveloped the beach as the two groups faced off, ours, a gathering of friends caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, and theirs, a mysterious assembly with motives shrouded in darkness. The air crackled with an impending storm, both literal and metaphorical. With a sudden, unexpected intensity, the leader of the clandestine group stepped forward. A tall figure with piercing eyes that seemed to see through the veil of our confusion. He spoke, a low and measured voice that carried the weight of authority. He demanded our silence, our pledge to forget what we had witnessed. As the words hung in the air, we felt the gravity of the situation closing in. The bonfire, once a symbol of camaraderie, now flickered with an uncertain fate. The night air, heavy with tension, bore witness to a confrontation that transcended the boundaries of our understanding. The leader's gaze locked onto each of us, as if searching for signs of defiance. We hesitated, caught in the grip of fear and uncertainty. And then, with a subtle nod, he signaled to his followers, and they retreated into the shadows as silently as they had appeared. Left alone on the beach, we exchanged wary glances. The bonfire, now reduced to embers, reflected the uncertainty that lingered in our hearts. The night, once promising laughter and friendship, had morphed into an encounter with the inexplicable. We stood there, grappling with the aftermath of a night that defied logic. The clandestine figures vanished into the darkness, leaving us with unanswered questions and a newfound awareness of the hidden currents that ebbed and flowed beneath the surface of the outer banks. As we dispersed, the weight of the encounter clung to us like the salt in the sea breeze. The beach, once a carefree escape, now held a story untold, a narrative of shadows and whispers that would haunt our memories long after the last embers of the bonfire had faded away. I thought it would be a regular hike, enjoying the coastal cliffs of Big Sur on a sunny day. The salty breeze, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks, it felt like the perfect escape. Little did I know, those serene cliffs held secrets darker than the abyss below. As I followed the winding trail, the view became breathtaking. The vast expanse of the Pacific stretched before me, and the rugged cliffs rose majestically. But soon, that picturesque scene took a turn for the sinister. I noticed a group of people ahead, standing on an outcrop overlooking the ocean. They seemed like fellow hikers, but something about them felt off. Their hushed conversations and furtive glances raised my suspicions. I figured they were just admiring the view, but that unease lingered. As I continued along the trail, they began to move, always just a bit ahead. At first, I thought it was mere coincidence, but their deliberate pace and occasional glances in my direction sparked a growing sense of dread. The trail became narrower, the cliff steeper. With every step, the group behind me seemed to close in. My heart pounded as I quickened my pace, navigating the treacherous path with a growing urgency. The once inviting hike now felt like a trap. I dared not confront them. Fear clawed at my throat, whispering that something was terribly wrong. The cliffs, once a source of awe, now felt like an insurmountable barrier. With each glance back, I caught glimpses of their faces, expressionless masks that sent shivers down my spine. I wondered if I was overreacting, my imagination fueling paranoia. But then, a sharp rock grazed my foot, and I stumbled. In that moment of vulnerability, their pace quickened. I felt their presence like a shadow closing in. The sun, once high in the sky, now cast long shadows on the rugged terrain. Panic set in as I realized I needed to find a way out. The cliffs, unforgiving and steep, offered little refuge. The relentless pursuit of the group fueled my adrenaline, and I began to sprint, desperately seeking an escape route. The trail twisted and turned, and I lost sight of the ocean. The only sound was my labored breath and the rhythmic pounding of footsteps behind me. The once pristine landscape now felt like a labyrinth closing in on me. As I navigated the rocky terrain, a sense of isolation enveloped me. No fellow hikers, no signs of civilization. It was just me and the relentless pursuit. I questioned whether this was a dangerous misunderstanding or something far more sinister. My legs ached, and my breath came in ragged gasps. I had to find help, get back to the safety of the trailhead. The group's motives remained a mystery, but their relentless pursuit hinted at something ominous. As the trail widened, I glimpsed a familiar sight, the trailhead. Relief surged through me, but it was short-lived. The group remained steadfast in their pursuit, closing the distance. With every step, the reality of the situation became clearer. I was being hunted. I burst out of the trail, my lungs burning, and stumbled into the parking lot. The group stopped at the trailhead, their gazes fixed on me. I scanned the area for help, spotting a couple returning to their car. Without hesitation, I approached them, explaining the ordeal. The couple eyed the group, their expressions tense. We decided to wait by their car until the group dispersed. As we watched, the mysterious hikers lingered for a moment before turning back along the trail. The couple offered me a ride back to my car, and I accepted gratefully. During the drive, we speculated about the group's motives. Were they thrill seekers with a twisted sense of fun, or something more sinister? As I reached my car, I glanced back at the coastal cliffs, now bathed in the orange hues of the setting sun. The once beautiful landscape held a newfound darkness. It was supposed to be the perfect celebration, our destination wedding in Bali. The lush landscapes, the vibrant culture, it felt like a dream. Little did we know that paradise could unravel into a nightmare. The venue, a beachside resort, was idyllic. The sea breeze played with the floral decorations as we exchanged vows. Friends and family gathered, the joy palpable. But beneath the surface of our happiness, a storm brewed. We discovered that a local group disapproved of our union. They believed it defied tradition, clashed with their cultural norms. We were caught in a whirlwind of disapproval, and our dream wedding became a battleground. The first signs were subtle, a disapproving glance from a passing local or hushed conversations that fell silent as we approached. Whispers reached us, tales of disapproval spreading like wildfire. We tried to ignore it, to focus on our celebration, but the tension grew. As we danced under the stars, we felt the weight of their disapproval. A group of locals watched from a distance, their eyes filled with resentment. We didn't understand the depth of their objection, but it cast a shadow over our joy. The following day, as we explored the vibrant markets, the disapproving glares intensified. A local elder approached us, his words sharp with criticism. He spoke of traditions, of our intrusion into their way of life. The confrontation left us shaken. As the days passed, the hostility escalated. We encountered hostility in unexpected places: a waiter at a local restaurant, a vendor in the market. Their resentment seeped into every aspect of our celebration. One evening, as we strolled along the beach, we were confronted by the disapproving group. Their leader, a stern-faced man, accused us of disrespecting their culture. Tensions escalated, and we found ourselves in a heated exchange, surrounded by locals echoing their disapproval. We retreated to our resort, but the hostility lingered. Our joyous celebration had become a battleground, and we felt like intruders in a place that had initially embraced us. The staff at the resort, though sympathetic, could do little to shield us from the growing resentment. One night, we returned to our villa to find it vandalized. The walls were smeared with messages of disapproval, and our belongings were scattered. Fear gripped us as we realized the extent of the animosity. Desperate, we sought help from the local authorities. Their response was tepid, acknowledging the cultural clash but offering little resolution. It seemed the disapproval was deeply ingrained, an unyielding force that resisted outside intervention. As we approached our departure date, the tension reached its peak. The disapproving group gathered outside the resort, their presence menacing. We feared for our safety and decided to leave Bali earlier than planned, our dream wedding reduced to a harrowing escape. The flight back was a mix of relief and sorrow. We left behind the beauty of Bali, tarnished by an encounter we never anticipated. Tulum, Mexico, a place known for its tranquil beaches and yoga retreats, seemed like the perfect escape for some relaxation. Little did I know that the serene atmosphere had something darker beneath the surface. The retreat, nestled near the coast, exuded calmness. Participants from around the world gathered for yoga, meditation, and a respite from the chaos of daily life. The promise of finding inner peace lured me in, a chance to escape the stresses that clung to me like shadows. The initial days were everything I expected. Morning yoga sessions on the beach, the soothing sound of the waves, and the camaraderie of like-minded individuals. It felt like a sanctuary, a bubble of peace amidst the vast expanse of the ocean. As the days passed, a subtle unease settled in. Whispers among the participants hinted at something more profound, something beyond the advertised serenity. People spoke of a hidden purpose, a sinister undercurrent beneath the guise of enlightenment. One evening, as we gathered for a group meditation, I noticed an ominous energy in the air. The leader, a charismatic figure with piercing eyes, guided us into a trance-like state. But his words took a dark turn, urging us to surrender ourselves completely, to trust in a greater purpose. Some participants embraced it, blindly following the charismatic leader. They spoke of a transformation, a rebirth through submission. It sounded like nonsense, but the fervor with which they believed sent shivers down my spine. I became an unwitting witness to a growing manipulation. The serene beach became a backdrop for something far more insidious. The charismatic leader orchestrated a gradual separation, creating an inner circle of devoted followers who spoke of enlightenment through obedience. Fear crept in as I realized the danger of my situation. The charismatic leader's words became more compelling, his influence spreading like a virus among the participants. They became pawns in a game I didn't understand, their minds ensnared by a promise that seemed to lead only to darkness. I tried to distance myself, to resist the pull of the charismatic leader's influence. But suspicion lingered, and my attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy became increasingly challenging. The once friendly faces now seemed like strangers, lost to a collective delusion. One night, I overheard a whispered conversation among the inner circle. Their words were cryptic, but the sinister undertones sent a chill down my spine. It became clear that this retreat was a facade, a front for a clandestine agenda that had nothing to do with self-discovery or enlightenment. The beach, once a haven, now felt like a trap. I contemplated leaving, but fear held me back. The charismatic leader's influence extended beyond the retreat, casting a shadow over the once idyllic Tulum. I was an outsider in a place that had transformed into a breeding ground for manipulation and deceit. As the retreat neared its end, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The inner circle became more secretive, and a sense of impending doom hung in the air. I couldn't escape the feeling that something sinister was about to unfold. One night, as I strolled along the beach, I stumbled upon a clandestine gathering. The charismatic leader, surrounded by the inner circle, spoke of a grand revelation, an event that would elevate them to a higher plane of existence. The air crackled with anticipation, and a sinking realization gripped me. I had to escape before I became entangled in whatever dark plan awaited. The following morning, I feigned illness and slipped away from the retreat unnoticed. Tulum, once a haven, had become a place of nightmares. As I left that beach, I couldn't shake the feeling that the charismatic leader's influence extended far beyond the retreat. Galveston, Texas, a place known for its sun-soaked beaches and lively carnivals. Seemed like a perfect day for some family fun, or so we thought. Little did we know that beneath the vibrant colors and laughter, a dangerous game awaited. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the carnival. The sound of laughter, carousel music, and the distant crashing of waves created a festive atmosphere. We, a typical family looking for a good time, blended into the crowd eager for thrills. As we strolled along the boardwalk, the vibrant lights of the carnival games beckoned. The kids' eyes lit up with excitement. My wife and I, caught up in the festive spirit, decided to indulge in the games of chance and skill. We found ourselves drawn to a peculiar booth tucked away from the main attractions. A nondescript sign labeled it as the ultimate challenge. Intrigued, we approached, only to be greeted by a mysterious figure in a carnival barker's attire. The barker, a sly grin etched on his face, explained the rules of the game. It was a series of challenges, physical, mental, and downright bizarre. The prize? A glittering trophy and the coveted title of the ultimate champion. The allure of competition and the promise of glory pulled us in. We registered as a family, oblivious to the hidden costs that lay ahead. The first few challenges were harmless, a mix of ring tosses, trivia questions, and quirky tasks that had the crowd cheering. But as the night progressed, the challenges escalated in intensity. Physical feats pushed our limits, mental puzzles left us perplexed, and bizarre tasks blurred the line between amusement and discomfort. The cheers from the crowd turned into hushed whispers, a palpable tension settling over the carnival. As the competition reached its zenith, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in too deep. The carnival barker's grin grew more sinister with each challenge. Winning had become an obsession, a dangerous desire fueled by the adrenaline of the crowd and the intoxicating promise of the glittering trophy. The challenges took a toll on us physically and mentally. Fatigue set in, tempers flared, and the once joyful atmosphere now felt oppressive. Yet, the allure of victory, the glint of that trophy, blinded us to the warning signs. The final challenge loomed, a test of endurance and willpower. The crowd, sensing the impending climax, fell into an uneasy silence. The carnival barker, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity, explained the task. The family who endured the longest in a sealed glass box would emerge as the ultimate champion. As we entered the claustrophobic confines of the box, panic set in. The air grew stifling, and the transparent walls felt like a prison. The crowd's murmurs turned into anxious whispers, and the carnival barker's grin widened into a sinister smirk. Minutes turned into an agonizing eternity. The carnival barker, indifferent to our distress, watched with a detached amusement. The atmosphere inside the box became increasingly oppressive, and our desperation reached a breaking point. I glanced at my family, their faces etched with fear and exhaustion. The glittering trophy, once a symbol of victory, now seemed like a cruel joke. In that stifling box, reality blurred, and the line between competition and survival vanished. As the seconds ticked away, the realization hit we were pawns in a dangerous game with no way out. The carnival barker, reveling in our torment, declared us the ultimate champions. The trophy glittered, but victory tasted bitter. Exiting the box, we were met with a hollow applause from the dwindling crowd. The carnival barker, with a twisted satisfaction, handed us the trophy, a grotesque reminder of the price we paid for fleeting glory. As we left the carnival, the glittering trophy felt like a heavy burden. The festivities continued around us, but the shadows of the challenges lingered. The family that sought a day of joy left with a trophy stained with the cost of an insidious competition, a dark tale hidden beneath the veneer of a seaside carnival in Galveston. So, there we were, me and my buddies, camping on this picturesque sandbar in the Florida Keys. The idea sounded great, a weekend of sun, sea, and chilling by the campfire. Little did we know, our little paradise was about to turn into a nightmare. We set up our tents, cracked open some beers, and started a bonfire. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was all good vibes until we noticed the tide. Slowly, it crept in, inching closer to our tents. But hey, we were beach camping newbies, and we figured it was just a normal thing. As the night wore on, we realized our mistake. The tide wasn't being friendly, it was downright aggressive. The sandbar, our little haven, was vanishing beneath the rising water. Panic set in, and we hurriedly gathered our stuff. The realization hit we were trapped, surrounded by water on all sides. Tensions flared among us as we watched the tide devour our camping spot. The friendly banter turned into heated arguments. The water, now lapping at our tents, reflected the anxiety that hung in the air. We were stuck in the middle of the ocean, our tents slowly becoming makeshift rafts. Just when we thought things couldn't get worse, we heard voices in the distance. Flashlights bobbing in the dark. Locals, by the looks of it. We thought maybe they could help, but as they approached, something about their demeanor sent shivers down our spines. These weren't the friendly, beach-loving locals we expected. Their faces were hardened, expressions menacing. We tried to strike up a conversation, explain our predicament, but they just stared. It was then that the tension escalated to a whole new level. Words turned into threats. They claimed we were invading their territory, disturbing their fishing grounds. We tried to reason, but reason seemed to have abandoned that sandy patch of land. The rising tide mirrored the rising hostility between us and the locals. Then came the demands. They wanted us gone, off their precious sandbar. The water, now swallowing the last bits of dry land, became a battleground for a confrontation we never anticipated. It was like a standoff, but with the relentless tide as the referee. As our tents floated away, the locals got closer, their threats turning into actions. The fear was palpable. We were outnumbered, surrounded by darkness and water. A sense of helplessness settled over us. A couple of the more aggressive locals grabbed our cooler, tossing our beers into the sea. The bonfire, once a symbol of camaraderie, now flickered in the face of danger. It was chaos, a surreal blend of waves crashing, voices shouting, and the crackle of our dying bonfire. With no other choice, We began paddling away on our now floating tents, leaving behind the sandbar-turned battlefield. The locals, their menacing presence fading in the distance, let us go. We were battered, mentally and physically, left adrift on the unforgiving sea. As dawn broke, we found ourselves washed ashore on a different beach, far from the chaos of that ill-fated sandbar. The rising sun painted the horizon, a stark contrast to the darkness we'd endured. Our camping trip had become a harrowing tale of nature's wrath and human hostility, a nightmare etched in the memories of a group of friends who just wanted a simple weekend by the ocean. Alright, so I'm this filmmaker, right? Decided to shoot a documentary on a beach in Cannes, thinking it's all sunshine and glamour. But, man, did things take a turn I never saw coming. Started off pretty standard. Set up my equipment, got the crew together. We were capturing the glitz and glamour of the film festival, interviewing actors, directors, the whole shebang. Everything seemed normal until we realized there was this other film crew hanging around. These guys weren't friendly competitors. There was something off about them. They'd shoot us these dirty looks, like we were encroaching on their territory. I shrugged it off initially, thinking maybe they were just protective of their documentary, like we were of ours. As days passed, things got weirder. They started shadowing us, always a step behind. I catch glimpses of them in the background of our shots, like they were deliberately trying to mess with our footage. It was annoying, but I didn't think much of it until we stumbled upon their dark secret. Late one night, while reviewing the day's footage, we noticed something odd. There, in the background of an interview, we spotted one of their crew members exchanging a briefcase with a shady-looking character. Looked like some shady deal was going down, right there on the Cannes beach. Curiosity got the better of us. We decided to investigate, camera rolling, thinking we'd stumbled upon some cinematic gold. Little did we know, it was a rabbit hole we should have left untouched. We followed their crew, lurking in the shadows, feeling like amateur detectives. Turns out, that shady deal was just the tip of the iceberg. They were involved in some kind of illegal film distribution ring. Piracy, maybe? I don't know. I'm not a detective. As we delved deeper, we discovered they were sabotaging other film crews, stealing footage, trying to take down the competition. That included us. Suddenly, our little documentary on the Cannes beach became a cat-and-mouse game with these underground filmmakers. Tensions escalated fast. Confrontations turned into full-blown arguments. We catch them red-handed trying to mess with our gear, delete our footage. It was like a twisted version of filmmaking hell. One day, it got physical. I found myself in a scuffle with one of their crew members. Cameras went flying, and there we were, grappling on the sandy Cannes shore. It wasn't what I signed up for, and the irony of a filmmaker resorting to fisticuffs wasn't lost on me. The authorities got involved, and the festival turned into a chaotic mess. Our documentary became a twisted tale of deception and rivalry, a story I never intended to tell. Me and my partner decided to spice up our routine with a kayaking trip in the Bay of Fundy, trying to be all adventurous and stuff. We thought it'd be all picturesque, with the dramatic tides and breathtaking cliffs. But let me tell you, it turned into a nightmare faster than you can say paddle. We were out there, just enjoying the serenity, when we stumbled upon something we weren't supposed to see. There was this cove, tucked away from prying eyes, where some shady dealings were going down. At first, we thought it was just some people having a not-so-legal beach party or something. But as we paddled closer, we realized it was much darker. There were crates, like smuggling-sized crates, being loaded onto boats. Naturally, we freaked out a bit. I mean, who wouldn't? We're out here for a peaceful day, and suddenly, we're unwitting witnesses to some serious criminal stuff. We tried to paddle away quietly, not wanting to become part of whatever sketchy business was happening. Turns out, we weren't stealthy enough. As we were about to round a rocky outcrop, we heard a motor, and then these guys in a boat spotted us. Panic set in. We paddled like our lives depended on it. Little did we know, they weren't too thrilled about being seen. The chase began. These guys, wearing dark clothes and scowls that could scare a bear, were tailing us in their boat. The Bay of Fundy, known for its crazy tides, became a battleground. Waves were against us, making the escape nearly impossible. We were paddling for our lives, hearts pounding, and the relentless pursuit behind us. At one point, the guys in the boat started yelling, threatening us to stop. Yeah, like we were going to pull over and have a chat with possible criminals. As we rounded another rocky bend, we hoped to lose them, but it only got worse. The tidal currents, already infamous in these parts, turned into a maelstrom. Our kayaks were tossed around like toys, and the pursuing boat struggled to navigate the chaos. For a moment, it seemed like we might escape, but the tide wasn't done with us. It dragged us towards these colossal cliffs, and we were caught in this nightmarish tug-of-war between the tidal forces and our pursuers. Eventually, we got perilously close to the cliffs. Panic was setting in, and the guys in the boat were still hot on our tails. It was like a twisted game of chicken, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't going to end well. Suddenly, our kayak took a hit, and we capsized. We were in the frigid water, struggling to stay afloat, and those menacing figures from the boat were approaching. The bay, once a serene escape, turned into a claustrophobic trap. I don't know how, but we managed to swim to a rocky outcrop, out of sight from those guys. We hid there, shivering and terrified, as they circled around for a while before giving up. The tide, which had almost betrayed us, also became our savior by washing away any trace of our escape. Eventually, we made it back to shore, drenched, freezing, and haunted by the ordeal. So, I'm an artist, right? I got this brilliant idea for an installation on Malibu Beach. Figured the ocean breeze and all would be perfect for my masterpiece. Little did I know, my brilliant idea would lead me straight into a nightmare. I chose this secluded spot, waves crashing, sun setting, the whole picturesque deal. There I was, lugging my art supplies, when I saw them. A group of people. At first, I thought, cool, beachgoers like me. But no, they were up to something, and it wasn't sandcastles. As I set up my installation, I overheard snippets of their conversation. Something about a hidden stash, maybe illegal. I wasn't exactly eavesdropping, but when you're the only one around, you can't help but catch some deets. That's when it hit me. I'd stumbled onto something I shouldn't have. These guys were bad news, and they saw me. Now, I ain't no hero. I just wanted to create my masterpiece in peace. But these guys, they weren't having it. As darkness crept in, my artistic endeavor turned into a race against time. They started heading my way, and let me tell you, my heart was pounding louder than the waves. I didn't sign up for a thriller movie, but life had other plans. Frantically, I continued my artwork, hoping they'd overlook me as just some eccentric artist doing their thing. But no, they approached, and the vibe shifted from awkward to downright sinister. I felt eyes on me, judging every brushstroke. I tried to keep it together, focus on my art, but it felt like a staring contest I never signed up for. They were whispering now, probably debating whether to kick me off the beach or worse. I mean, who knew what these guys were capable of? Then, they pulled out flashlights. I couldn't see their faces, just shadows and glints from the beams. That's when I realized my masterpiece wasn't going to save me. I was just a witness stumbling onto their secret, and they weren't about to let that slide. In the midst of their whispers, I gathered my courage, packed up my stuff, and tried to act chill. You know, play it off like I was done with my artsy thing, hoping they'd buy it. But the tension, man, it was thick enough to cut with a palette knife. Just as I thought they might let me off with a stern warning, one of them stepped forward. The flashlight illuminated his face, and the expression, pure malice. He muttered something about secrets and consequences. My heart sank. This was going south real quick. I bolted, leaving my half-finished masterpiece behind. Running on the sand, stumbling over my own feet, I could hear them behind me. The waves crashed louder than my footsteps, but theirs were relentless, closing in. My car, parked not far from the beach, became my lifeline. I sprinted, adrenaline pumping, and jumped in. I peeled out of there faster than I knew my old car could handle. Glancing back, I saw them standing on the beach, watching me escape. I reported what happened to the authorities, but let's be real, I didn't have much to offer. They were just shadows in the night, faces hidden, and my masterpiece became a sacrifice to some dark secret. Ever since that night, I can't look at my art the same way. The beach, once a canvas for my creativity, became a haunting reminder of the thin line between artistry and survival. We were on vacation in Phuket, Thailand, my partner and I, looking for some adventure. Thought snorkeling might be fun, you know, exploring the underwater world. So, we booked this excursion, thinking it would be all colorful fish and coral reefs. Little did we know, we were in for way more than we bargained for. The boat ride to the snorkeling spot was breezy. Sun shining, waves rocking the boat, felt like paradise. We were buzzing with excitement, imagining the vibrant marine life we were about to encounter. But life has a way of flipping the script when you least expect it. We put on our gear, masks snug, flippers on, and splashed into the Andaman Sea. The water was crystal clear, like a massive swimming pool, and we descended into this world of silence, punctuated only by the sound of our own breath. At first, it was magical. Fish of all colors darting around, and the coral formations were mesmerizing. We were lost in this tranquil universe, floating weightlessly. But as we swam deeper, things took a turn. Out of nowhere, we stumbled upon this eerie underwater structure. It wasn't part of the natural reef. It looked man-made, like some underwater base. We exchanged nervous glances through our masks, wondering if we'd strayed into restricted waters or something. Curiosity got the better of us, and we approached cautiously. The closer we got, the more we realized it wasn't just a structure, it was an operation. There were people down there, not snorkelers like us, but divers in serious gear, handling equipment that seemed out of place. We hovered above, trying to make sense of the situation. It felt like we'd stumbled upon something we shouldn't have. The divers were busy with their mysterious tasks, oblivious to our presence. That's when it hit us. We were witnessing something shady, something dangerous. I motioned to my partner to swim back up. We needed to get out of there, report it to someone, but as we ascended, a chill ran down my spine. We weren't alone. A diver, different from the others, noticed us. His eyes behind the mask felt like daggers, piercing through our very souls. Panicking, we swam for the surface, our hearts pounding louder than the bubbles escaping our regulator. We breached the water, gasping for air, and immediately scanned the boat. The crew was oblivious, chatting away. We clambered back on board, trying to act casual, but paranoia set in. Were they watching us? Did they know we saw something we shouldn't have? The boat ride back to shore was torture, every splash of water against the hull echoing our racing thoughts. Back at the hotel, we debated reporting what we'd seen. Fear held us back, fear of retribution, fear of getting tangled in something way beyond our vacation plans. But we couldn't shake the feeling that we'd stumbled into a dangerous secret. The next day, headlines hit the local news about an illegal operation uncovered in the waters near Phuket. They didn't go into specifics, but we knew. We were unwitting witnesses to something sinister lurking beneath the surface. Our vacation took a dark turn, the once inviting sea now harboring secrets that left us questioning the thin line between curiosity and danger. I was out in Death Valley, California, seeking the thrill of adventure amidst the vast expanse of sand dunes. The scorching sun beat down on the desert, making the air shimmer with relentless heat. I trudged through the shifting sands, each step an effort under the relentless sun. As I ventured deeper into the dunes, the solitude became both my companion and my challenge. The vast emptiness seemed to stretch endlessly, and the silence was only broken by the distant howl of the wind. I embraced the solitude, reveling in the freedom of the desert, until I stumbled upon something that shattered the tranquility. A makeshift camp appeared in the distance, camouflaged amidst the dunes. An odd assortment of tents and tarpaulins blended into the sandy landscape. My curiosity got the better of me, prompting me to investigate the mysterious encampment. Approaching cautiously, I noticed movement, shadows shifting against the sun-bleached canvas. Fear gnawed at my gut, but I pressed on, drawn by an inexplicable urge to understand the secrets concealed within the camp. As I neared, hushed voices became audible. They spoke in low tones, a language I couldn't discern. The tension in the air was palpable. My pulse quickened as I observed the group, a motley assembly of individuals with eyes that held a mixture of suspicion and desperation. I hesitated, contemplating whether to retreat or continue my inadvertent intrusion. But before I could decide, the group noticed me. A collective gaze fixed upon my solitary figure, and the air became charged with an uneasy energy. I raised my hands in a feeble attempt to convey harmlessness, but the tension escalated. They spoke hurriedly among themselves, glances exchanged like a silent conspiracy unfolding before my eyes. It was then I realized I had stumbled upon something more than a nomadic camp in the desert. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, their features obscured by the harsh sunlight. A leader, perhaps. Their stern expression bore witness to a life hardened by adversity. The group's intentions were unclear, but the atmosphere hinted at a threat lingering beneath the surface. An awkward standoff ensued, neither party fully comprehending the other's motives. My mind raced, grappling with the potential dangers that loomed in this remote desert encounter. The desert, once a symbol of boundless freedom, now felt like a trap closing in. The leader, with a nod to the others, approached me cautiously. Communication faltered in the language barrier, and gestures became the only means of understanding. It was an unnerving dance, two parties navigating the delicate balance between curiosity and wariness. As minutes stretched into an eternity, a decision seemed imminent. The group, while not overtly aggressive, exuded an aura of secrecy and caution. My instinct screamed at me to retreat, to escape this uncertain predicament, but the vastness of Death Valley offered no refuge. In a tense moment, the leader signaled for me to leave. It was a silent command, an unspoken warning to unravel myself from the web of uncertainty. As I retreated, glancing back over my shoulder, the makeshift camp disappeared into the undulating dunes, a mirage in the vastness of the desert, concealing its enigmatic secrets beneath the relentless sun. The encounter lingered in my thoughts as I continued through the ever-shifting landscape,